One of the reasons for this abstracto section is to tackle the tendencies in delirium disorder, which is basically the idea that which you think is right is actually right. This idea many times is wrong, and I seem to have a tendency to think this way personally, although this could just be an example of me thinking this way. What happens essentially is that your mind not only distorts something that comes into your head like a connection between two ideas, and thinks that by having one piece of evidence or seeking similar data called confirmation bias is enough to promote a complete and well-documented theory, but you actually believe it and will defend it at all costs for the time being without noticing how wrong it might be. Other people may be able to see that the theory, belief, or idea has loopholes in it, that it is incomplete or is just plain wrong and false for many reasons, but the person suffering from delirium disorder is persistent in his or her thoughts and will probably not be able to see it. Abstracto helps me to negate the idea by literally saying what this is not towards the end of the videos so that I am able to think not only differently about the idea, but more profoundly. It may be that the idea is wrong, but linking hypothetical correlations together is a good starting point to go into the subject matter even deeper, because how are you going to be right if you are not wrong first? Where and when are your learning experiences going to take place then? There is also the normal paradox mentioned in Robert Cialdini's Persuasion book when he talks about the power of consistency and how we tend to think that what we do, say, think, and feel in the world is normal, and therefore everybody else does, says, thinks, and feels like we do. This is obviously wrong, and that is why it is a paradox, because we think everybody is like us, but they are different. Most people are copies of one another, and like Hermann Hesse says, they like to find comfort in the collective, and that is because it is much harder to be an individual with unique thinking patterns and your own autonomous criteria, which is constantly changing. Now back to the normal paradox. Abstracto helps me to get rid of the idea that everybody must think like I do. Heck, I view my earlier videos and sometimes I don't even know what I'm thinking about, and this is because context is very important. I can say, for example, moral is the first act of rebellion, and I have no idea what that means, and I have to watch my own video to know what I meant by it. This is because we tend to think that everybody understands us because we think we are normal, but the problem is that everybody thinks this, and so huge communication barriers come up and genuine understanding in general is distorted. That is, simple matters that can be cleared up are dragged on forever through thorny ground, and eventually relationships are torn apart just because of distant, unconfirmed, and/or perceived intentions. The idea is to negate, as was mentioned in the very first video of this section, to try to come to a deeper and richer understanding of the concepts and ideas, even going as far as testing them against our own prejudices and preferences. This allows us to bring to light the other characteristics that typically accompany an idea or a concept. If you so deeply believe an idea to be true, then test it. Ask people if they think you are right. It amazes me how much people either say you're right, ignore you, and go on with their life, but the rest of the people like to tell you you're wrong, or at least they say you're partly right, but you're not considering B, C, D, etc. This is good because it challenges your notions and ideas, and if you are open to the criticism these other people provide, then your ideas can benefit from this expansion. People may tell you about characteristics or other factors and variables that you are not considering, and this happens because everybody loves to be a critic and especially judge others even if they deny it. This is also done when you negate that which you believe in and elaborate more on it. For example, if I say that moral is the first act of rebellion, and then I go ahead and say that moral is not the first act of rebellion, but rather the first act of intelligence or of religion, etc., you can see how new characteristics of the idea come about. It doesn't necessarily mean that the first characteristic is wrong or false. It just means that I am able to elaborate more on the initial idea using this tactic. Finally, we have the notion of visualization and manifestation in the self-growth and self-help sciences, and these say that that which you think and feel is what becomes real in your life. Now try negating that to expand your idea. So go, it is not that if you think and feel it, it can become real, but rather that you will work harder for something that is already in your mind. It is like having a goal or dream in your mind to think about while you are working towards achieving it. It is not so much about manipulating your unconscious, but rather motivating your mind. Words matter, and they should be chosen for specific people and crowds. But do you see how expanding and elaborating an idea can help you to not only understand it better, but also to potentially see how it could be wrong? We go back to delirium disorder, and seeing as how we live in a world where people are more prone to continue to believe what they have always believed on autopilot, we need some technique now more than ever to help us really question our core beliefs and ideas. That is, to be able to see where we're wrong, fix it, and expand not only our minds, but the minds of others. Delirium disorder takes place when someone is unable to focus on the matter at hand, and this can happen when we simply give up trying to understand, explore, and investigate matters thoroughly and seriously. But it can also happen when we dig in our heels and refuse to expand our cosmovision. By negating something, you do not expand your ideas, nor do you go at it with more depth. You actually end up creating new connections that could help yourself as much as the next person. And it is also not that when you have an idea, it is wrong. It may just be that the way you communicate it may not be the best way for other people to understand you. That is why you have to work on your narrative tendencies, make up stories with the ideas in them, and then tell people about them. There is an untapped power in stories which still needs to be explored, and for some reason, the most distracted, unfocused, and unaware people will still pay attention when a story is being told. Don't forget to subscribe, share your thoughts in the comments, and explore more on Abstracto. If you stayed until the end of the video, thank you. Next video will be about Mexico no es, sino.